Okay, so if we think about that essay question that I've given you, let's go back in our minds and let's think about the systems that we've gone through. All right? Now, we started out with the integumentary system. Is that correct? Okay? So if we think about the integumentary system, the skin, and in the skin, the blood supply to the skin is going to be helping with mitosis that has to take place at that bottom layer, the basal layer. Does everybody remember that? And so then those cells, as we have the mitosis occur, what begins to happen to them as they go to the outer epidermis? They're going to begin to have some changes that occur in the cell until they get to the top and they die off. Okay? All right, so the next system that we talked about was our bone, the skeletal system. So if that drop of blood for the skeletal system, well, remember, one of the things about the skeletal system, it's very highly vascularized. And then think about cells, okay, that are in that skeletal system. Remember how we have our osteoblast, our osteocytes, osteoclasts, and that building up and breaking down a bone? All right. Then the next system that we moved into, muscular system. So at the muscular system, what would the drop of blood be doing? It would be dropping off that oxygen that would be needed for cellular respiration. And of course, you got to kind of tell me a little bit about cellular respiration, not the whole thing. You need to let me know that you understand oxygen gets dropped off. It's used in the Krebs cycle. We have electron transport. It bumps down the electron transport. You know, just a basic overview. You don't have to get down into rough and dirty details. All right, so the drop of blood, the next system we talked about, was the nervous system. So in the nervous system, drop blood coming in. Don't forget, the nervous system, even though cells don't duplicate, those cells are still functioning. They're going to have to make their product, which is a protein, which is going to be the neurotransmitters for action potentials. Is everybody kind of following me? All right. So we had the nervous system. We then talked
What was the blood doing in the nervous system?
What I just said, because we've got to supply the nutrients and stuff to the cells. Okay, and those cells have to make a product. That product is going to be their neurotransmitters, which are used for action potentials. Think about what could happen with that drop of blood in the brain. Remember, we've got a blood-brain barrier, but we've still got cells that are like, you know, protecting it, but we're still doing nutrients, we're still doing waste. The next system that we talked about was what?
Endocrine.
Our endocrine system. Oh yeah, buddy. Think about what could happen with that drop of blood and with the stuff that will occur in the endocrine system. Don't forget, we've got the tracts that are in the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, and we've got that hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system, okay? We've got to give rise to those chemical messengers. And then from there, we moved into what? Endocrine? The lymph. Okay? So the lymph system. Oh my gosh, don't forget that, let's see, in the lymph system, well, the blood would have those white blood cells. They could be antigen presenting cells. The red blood cell as it goes through, that would be the blood, period, because the blood would be cleansed and so forth, like in the lymph nodes and stuff. The spleen would, destroy or help break down the red blood cell when it's all worn out. Okay, and then from the lymph, we moved into the cardiac. Well, bada bing, bada boom. You've got your circulatory system, and it provides the area for travel. It's the pump, because the heart is the pump. Let's see, respiratory system. Think about the dropping off of the gases, going through the lung tissue, the hemoglobin that'll be present, how that'll function, to the system we're at now for the kidneys. And the kidney's job, filtration. Now, does that make sense?
Yes.
That's a little more detailed than yesterday.
So,
We all asked.
so you don't want us to be like, to exactly say it goes from like, the right atrium to the right ventricle, then it goes through.
Well, yeah, you want to trace that path, because one's the pulmonary circuit and one's the systemic circuit. But if we think about the systemic circuit, these are all the tissue possibilities where it can go. And if you want to put something together before next Thursday and bring it and let me read it, I'll do that. And let you know if you're missing something or whatever.
Can we bring it for the test? That's a lot. That's a lot to write. That's a lot to write for a time period. And take a test after a lab practical.
Yeah, well, let me think about that, because if you create it before Thursday and bring it to me and you take it back and you make revisions that I've told you to make, then yeah, I might let you turn it in on the day of the test.
Deal.
Deal? And then on next Thursday, we'll do the practical, and you have to just do the multiple choice part. Okay? So that gives you a week to work on this and to bring it in and let me see it.
How many words do you need?
I'm guessing you're probably going to have quite a few.
Yeah.
So I would say, bring it to me, let me look at it, and then make whatever revisions I suggest. Okay? Deal? Deal. Okay. Y'all should have told me I had the wrong chapter up. Told you, I'm tired today. Okay, let's get into this last chapter that we're going to cover, the urinary system. And I kind of like this picture right here, because this is the picture for the removal of a healthy kidney. So it would be used for transplant. And I find it very interesting that when someone has a kidney transplant, they don't remove the diseased kidneys, yet we remove the healthy kidney from the person who was donating. In a kidney transplant, it's just simply put down here and attached to the ureters, And so I just find it very interesting about that. But kidneys are going to be amazing as we begin to look at this chapter, the components that are going to make up the urinary system. They're going to be our kidneys, the ureters, the urinary bladder, and the urethra. And that is a lot of what the structure looks like if you were to take a view in the back here. because where they're going to be found, it's a term called retroperitoneal. All right, meaning towards the back of the peritoneum. The function of this system, of course, filtration and excretion. Look at everything else this system can do. Regulates blood volume, which means all these pressures and stuff on the heart, okay? Blood pressure, and then osmolarity. What do you remember about osmolarity? How have we talked about it?
The movement of substances from an area of higher.
It's
Fluid
dealing,
gradient.
yeah, we're dealing with the salts, okay? And we're dealing with pressures with that and the water, okay? And remember, if you talk about an osmole would be a complete molecule of a substance, okay? Regulates the electrolyte and acid-base balance of body fluids. Kind of like the idea of the electrolytes right there. Secretes erythropoietin, which is what?
Doesn't it give rise to erythrocytes?
Gives rise to what?
Erythrocytes.
Where we're going to have it be secreted, go to the bone marrow, and it wants to help promote red blood cell production. Regulate calcium homeostasis, affecting bone metabolism. How could this be helping bone homeostasis?
Well, bones need calcium, so I would assume it makes sure that the calcium levels are up so that the bone can
It's going
keep
to
breaking down and
affect,
building up.
yep, because that calcium is one of these things that'll move through the kidneys, and the kidneys can either help return it to our body or it'll be excreted out. So it helps with the maintaining the balance of calcium. Helps to clear hormones and drugs from the blood. Helps to detoxify free radicals. Free radicals, don't like those. And it helps to support blood glucose levels in extreme conditions. If we think about this filtration and excretion, the biggest thing that this system is going to do is deal with these nitrogenous waste. When we say a waste, for our bodies, a waste is going to be anything that our body doesn't need or anything that might be in excess. In other words, the body doesn't need that much of it. When we say that it's a metabolic waste, that is something that comes to the body from metabolic processes. Basically, the functions of the cells creating their product. And what is the only thing that the cells of the body can produce? A protein. We are going to find that we have nitrogenous waste because these products that get produced have a nitrogen base. And nitrogen wastes are the most toxic to our bodies. The biggest form that we find is urea. And that's going to be a big byproduct of the formation and the breakdown of proteins. When we begin to break down the proteins, one of the things that'll happen, ammonia will be given off, NH4. All right, that's ammonia. The liver hopefully converts it to urea. And if that's the case, hopefully it'll go on to be a part of the waste that get removed from the body. There are some other byproducts from this breakdown. These are the uric acid and creatinine. Uric acid we tend to hear about from people who might suffer from gout, okay? It's little crystals that build up in the joints of their body, and it's a waste, okay? But it's just not being taken care of properly, and it builds up in the joints and it causes the gout, something that I hear is extremely painful. Also tends to be more prominent in men than women. Creatinine, that's another byproduct of the cell's metabolism, okay, as the cells are using energy. We have something called BUN, B-U-N. When you get blood work done, usually this is tested. It's called the blood urea nitrogen. How much nitrogen wastes are in your blood? That's what it's testing for. The problem, if the numbers are too high, sometimes you can have this test done and the numbers come back high, and it's a simple situation of where you're just not hydrated enough. Like when you went to get that test, that blood drawn for the test, you just were not hydrated enough. And if you simply drink the fluids that you need to drink, the number will probably drop. However, if it's a chronic situation where this number stays too high, it could lead to something called azotemia, something that you will hear in a clinical setting. Usually, it's indicating the kidneys are not functioning correctly. It can progress to uremia, and this is where we're having too much urea in the blood because it's not being gotten rid of, okay? And that actually leads to death. So it is a number that doctors are going to follow, but the high numbers can be from different situations.